A couple of weeks ago, I started talking to you about a topic called the process of acceptance. Now, the process of acceptance is a series of stages that we go through when we get bad news or an untoward event occurs in our lives. It helps us deal with it and get to the point of accepting it. Those stages, as defined by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, are anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And last week I spoke to you about anger and gave you 3 simple steps that I believe that you can follow in order to deal with the intensity of the anger that may occur. The first step is recognize and be aware of the triggering events when anger occurs. The second one is stop, look, and listen. And the third one is respond, don't react. Well, today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about denial. I'm sure you're all familiar with the little comical expression that you've heard, denial is not a river in Egypt. We say that comically because many times we deny the fact that we're in a stage of denial. Now, Webster defines denial as a psychological defense mechanism in which confrontation with a personal problem or reality is avoided by denying the existence of that reality or that problem. When it comes to our health, we are constantly denying the reality of health challenges that we have. Take, for instance, the person with emphysema who continues to smoke, or the diabetic who dives into a delicious piece of cheesecake and knowing that their blood sugar is going to be elevated in 8 to 10 hours. They'll have to deal with the reality at that point in time. Sometimes the reality of the problem is so harsh that we have to deny it in order to be able to deal with it. Take, for instance, the person who gets a diagnosis, you have cancer. The harshness of that reality is so strong that denying it for a period of time may allow the person to gradually deal with it and finally make it through that stage and move on to the next stage. Now, it doesn't really make any difference which stage occurs first, because sometimes denial will occur before anger. When a harsh reality such as you'll never walk again or you're fired occurs, it is such a strong emotion that is evoked that we can't even accept it enough. We can't believe it enough in order to be able to get angry at the situation. So denial will occur first and anger secondarily. It doesn't really make any difference which stage comes first. They both need to be dealt with in their own way. Denial, just like anger, is not a bad emotion. It's not a bad feeling, but when taken to an extreme, it can be harmful. Now let's take a look at denial as a protective mechanism, and there's an analogy that I like to use, and it may not be perfect for every situation, but I believe it gets the point across. Very young children cannot swim, although there is a theory that says a child just born or shortly thereafter, when thrown into a pool of water, will instinctively know how to swim, but that instinct does gradually disappear as the child gets older. So if you deny the fact that a child cannot swim and throw them into a pool of water, chances are they're going to drown. You can't deny that fact. But there is a protective mechanism. That protective mechanism is a series of inflatables, a flotation device, if you will, that when utilized properly will allow a child to go from the stage of not being able to swim at all to being able to swim independently. Now, it may start with a total flotation device and gradually progress its way to the arm inflatables, to eventually being held by the parent, guardian, or adult, to where the child can actually swim on their own without any help, just the supervision and approval of that parent, guardian, or adult. So many times denial will actually require a progressive defense mechanism in order to be able to eventually make it through that stage. Now, I'd like to provide some caution, though, in dealing with yourself or other people who are in a stage of denial, and you get tired of dealing with it, so you try to throw it up in their face that they're in a stage of denial. Boldly tell them that they're denying the reality. And the other harmful thing to do is to totally accept their denial and play along with them so that they never have a chance to work their way through. Just allow people to deal with it on their own and let it go through its complete process in order to get the best outcome. Now, as I said, the analogy that I provided may not be the best, but I believe it gets the point across. and it helps us understand denial as a protective mechanism. So in simple summary, you should neither challenge nor encourage denial. Just recognize its existence and the process that has to be completed. See you next week for bargaining.